Students, today we will revise what we have learnt in last 5 days. So first, we will learn about the types and characteristics of fuels. What is the fuel? How is it different from combustible materials? Any material that can burn is called a combustible substance, while the combustible material that produces heat and light on combustion is called a fuel. Examples of fuel are coal and wood. Every fuel, when burnt, releases heat. This heat energy is measured in joules. The amount of heat energy in kilojoules released by 1 kg of fuel burnt in air is known as its calorific value. So, how do we calculate calorific value of a fuel? Calorific value of a fuel is equal to heat energy released by the fuel in kilojoules divided by amount of fuel in kg. Calorific value of petrol is 45,000 kilojoule per kg. Calorific value of LPG is 55,000 kilojoule per kg, and calorific value of coal is 32,000 kilojoule per kg. Here is an example in which you have to calculate the calorific value when 5 kg of fuel releases 30,000 kilojoule of heat. So how can we solve it? Here you can see the solution. Calorific value of a fuel is equal to heat energy released by fuel in kilojoules upon amount of fuel in kg. So we have been given the heat energy released by fuel in kilojoules is 30,000 kilojoules, and the amount of fuel in kilogram is 5 kilogram. So if we divide 30,000 kilojoules by 5 kg, we get the calorific value of the fuel as 6,000 kilojoule per kg. Efficiency of the fuel: higher the calorific value, higher is the efficiency of the fuel. This means a fuel will release more energy per unit mass as compared to a fuel with lower efficiency. So, highly efficient fuel is 55,000 kilojoules per kg, which is LPG, right? Comparison of fuels in different physical states. In solid state, safety is it is safe to transport and use. Inflammability, it is not inflammable. Residue, it leaves ash or residue, right? Liquid, it needs big tanks to transport spills and can cause fire. Inflammability, it is inflammable, and residue, it does not leave any residue. Gas, it is transported in cylinders and pipes. Leaks can cause fire. It is inflammable and they burn completely. Solids, ignition temperature. So solids have high ignition temperature. Availability, solids are easily available and they are cheap. Calorific value, solid fuels have low calorific value. Liquids, ignition temperature is moderate. Availability, they are available but are costly. Calorific value, it is moderately high calorific value in liquid fuels. Gases, they have low ignition temperature They are available, but they are costly also. They have high calorific value. Choosing a good fuel, because the calorific value of LPG is 55,000 kilojoules per kg, so it is a better fuel in comparison to coal, which has 30,000 kilojoule per kg calorific value, right? Ignition temperature wise, ignition temperature of LPG is approximately 450 degrees Celsius, and of coal it is 670 degrees Celsius. Choosing a good fuel, here the complete combustion of LPG causes less wastage and pollution. About coal, incomplete combustion causes more wastage and pollution. So, a good fuel should have moderate ignition temperature, should have high calorific value, and should undergo complete combustion, causing less pollution and minimum wastage of fuel. Characteristics of an ideal fuel are: it should have high calorific value, it should have moderate ignition temperature, it should not form undesirable products, it should be readily available at low cost. So, this is the summary of what we have learned. About the impact of fossil fuels on the environment. Think, what is chemical composition of fossil fuels? Coal is mainly made up of carbon. Petrol and CNG are made up of compounds of hydrogen and carbon. They are also known as hydrocarbons. They all contain some impurities like compounds of nitrogen, sulfur, and some metals. Think, what happens when fossil fuels burn. On burning fossil fuels, they release gases that contain compounds of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Incomplete combustion of fossil fuels. When a fossil fuel doesn't get sufficient oxygen, it forms carbon monoxide due to incomplete combustion. Carbon monoxide causes suffocation and poisoning on inhalation, as it reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. Unburned carbon particles, that is soot, and metal particles like Zn and Pb, zinc and lead, are also released, which when inhaled cause respiratory problems. Complete combustion of fossil fuels. Complete combustion of fossil fuels mainly releases carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas which traps the sun's heat in the atmosphere, keeping the earth warm. Combustion of fossil fuels. Excessive burning of fossil fuels is leading to excess production of carbon dioxide gas. The more heat is getting trapped in the atmosphere, causing a rise in the global temperature. This is called global warming. It is impacting our planet in many ways. Impact 1: rise in sea level. Ice caps and glaciers are melting, leading to rise in the sea levels. Climate is changing unexpectedly with an extreme rise in temperature. Impact 2, natural calamities. Calamities, climate change happens all over the world, has been considered as one of the main causes of the increase in the frequency of natural calamities like floods and cyclones. Acid rain. Another impact of burning fossil fuels on our environment is acid rain. Oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, like sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide, are released. They react with the moisture in the air to form acids. This comes down as acid rains. Sulfurous acid, SO2 plus H2O, gives us H2SO3, that is sulfurous acid. And nitric acid, thrice NO2 plus H2O, gives us twice HNO3 plus NO. Right? This is HNO3 is known as nitric acid. Consequences of acid rain. Acid rain removes the minerals and nutrients from the soil and harms the growth of plants. It also is turning the white shiny marble of the Taj Mahal to dull yellow. How can we reduce the impact of burning fossil fuels? We can reduce the impact of burning fossil fuels by reducing their consumption. So, reducing consumption of fossil fuels, there are some ways in which you can help reduce the consumption of fossil fuels. Right? Here are some examples. Use renewable sources for generating energy as they can be replenished naturally, like air, nuclear power, bioenergy, solar energy, or water energy. Right? Also, switch off the engines of the vehicles at signals and ensure regular maintenance of vehicles. Reducing consumption of fossil fuels. Reduce the use of plastics and they are made from petrochemicals. Reuse plastic bags and recycle objects made from plastic. Choose environment friendly modes of transportation like bicycles or scooters that run on battery. Here is the summary what we have learned till now. CRL we will learn about the parts of candle flame.
Structure of a candle's flame. Hello students. We already know that a flame is produced only when a fuel vaporizes or burning. But did you know that different substances burn with different colored flames? For example, a magnesium ribbon burns with a dazzling white flame, while liquefied petroleum gas or LPG, which is used in the kitchen, burns with a blue flame. Similarly, when we burn a candle, we see different colors like blue, yellow, etc. Now, you must be wondering why the candle flame appears to have different colors. Well, this actually depends on the structure of the flame. In this video, we will understand the structure of a candle's flame. When we burn a candle, we see different colors in the flame. These different colors are called zones of a candle flame. A candle flame has 3 zones. These are the non-luminous or outermost zone, the luminous or middle zone, the dark or innermost zone. The different colors are seen in each zone depending on the amount of oxygen available in the zones. The non-luminous zone or the outermost zone is the hottest part of the flame. This is because complete combustion takes place here. The color of the flame is blue here as it has the maximum availability of oxygen. Now, let's look at the next zone, that is luminous or middle zone. This is a moderately hot zone and is yellow in color, as incomplete combustion takes place here. This is because there is lesser availability of oxygen in the zone when compared to the outermost zone. The dark or innermost zone is the zone of no combustion. The temperature of the zone is lowest as there is no oxygen supply here. This zone is grayish black in color due to the accumulation of wax vapors that are unburnt. Let's quickly summarize what we have learned today. A candle flame has three zones. First, the non-luminous or outermost zone that is blue in color and is the hottest zone as complete combustion takes place here. Then comes the luminous or the middle zone that is yellow in color and is moderately hot zone as incomplete combustion takes place here. And finally, the dark or innermost zone that is the least hot zone as no combustion takes place here. So now we know the structure of a candle's flame and why it has so many colors. Thank you. Happy learning.
Through this CRL, we will learn about the types of charges and their interaction.
Let us learn about the different types of charges and their interaction. We learned from the last activity that all objects have positive and negative charges. We also learned that on rubbing two objects, one of the objects gets positively charged while the other gets negatively charged. Let us study more about these charges and their interactions. What do you think will happen if objects charged with like charges are brought closer to each other? In the activity, since both the balloons were rubbed against wool, both acquired a negative charge. When two balloons with the same charges were brought closer to each other, they moved away or repelled each other. This shows that objects with the same charges repel each other. In the situation where empty pen refills were rubbed against a polythene bag, the refills acquired a positive charge. Since like charges repel each other, we saw the refills repel each other. Now, can you tell me why the balloon will be attracted to the empty pen refill? They were attracted to each other because the balloon was negatively charged, while the refill was positively charged. Since the pen refill and the balloon had opposite charges and were attracted to each other, we can infer that unlike charges or opposite charges attract each other. Let us see another example. If we bring a charged glass rod after rubbing with silk cloth near a charged balloon, what will happen? The glass rod will attract the balloon. It is because the glass rod and the balloon have acquired opposite charges. Now, think what will happen if an ebonite rod is rubbed on fur and is brought closer to the refill? It will attract it because the rod acquired a negative charge and the refill had a positive charge. Thus, we can summarize that when charged objects are brought close to each other, they will either attract or repel. When the charges are the same, the object will repel and move away from each other. When the charges are the opposite, the objects will attract and move towards each other.
Through this CRL, we will learn about how substances or objects can be charged. So first method is charging by induction and another one is charging by conduction, right? So earlier we have studied about the charges and their behavior. We also studied about the charging of objects by friction. When we rub anything and it gets charged, then this kind of charging is known as charging by friction. Now let us see some more ways to make objects charged. What happened to the soda can when the charged balloon was brought near it? Answer is, when the charged balloon was brought near the empty soda can, the can got attracted to the balloon and rolled towards the balloon. Why did the balloon attract the soda can? Answer is the balloon attracted the soda can because it got charged opposite to that of the balloon. Charging by induction. The negatively charged balloon was brought near the soda can and the soda can got opposite charge on it just by bringing the charged balloon near it. Right? So, charging by induction. The negatively charged balloon was brought near the soda can. The negative charges in the can got repelled and moved away from the balloon. So, the positive charges remained on the side facing the balloon and the negative charges gathered on the side away from the balloon. So, how the charging by induction is done? The negatively charged balloon is brought near the soda can. The negative charges in the can got repelled and moved away from the balloon. The positive charges remained on the side facing the balloon. The negative charges gathered on the side away from the balloon, and the soda can got attracted to the balloon due to the attraction between the opposite charges. Charging by induction. When a charged object is brought near an uncharged object, then without direct contact, the uncharged object gets oppositely charged to that of the charged body by induction. This is called charging by induction. Right? The side of the uncharged object facing the charged body will have charges opposite to that of the charged body. The other side of the uncharged body will have the same charges as that of the charged object. The object in which the charges are induced remains neutral as the total amount of positive and negative charges remain equal. Only the distribution of the charges in the object changes. What will happen if a positively charged glass rod is brought near an empty soda can? The glass rod will attract the empty soda can. The positive charges on the rod will induce negative charges on the metal can, and we know that opposite charges attract each other. Which side of the can will have positive charges and which side will have a negative charge? Answer is the side of the can which is not facing the balloon will acquire a negative charge, and the side facing the balloon directly will acquire a positive charge. What will happen if you touch the charged balloon to the empty soda can? Let us see the answer. If a charged balloon is touched to an uncharged soda can, the negative charges from the charged balloon will flow into the can. So, the soda can will acquire the same charges as that of the charged balloon. This is called charging by conduction. So, now if we bring the charged balloon near the charged can again, the two will repel each other as they both have the same charges now. So, charging by induction is a rearrangement of charges in an uncharged body when it is brought closer to a charged body. Charging by conduction the charges get transferred to an uncharged body from a charged body. Charges acquired without direct contact or through induction with the charged object will be opposite to that of the charged object. Charging by conduction, charges acquired with the direct contact, that is induction, with the charged object will be the same as that of the charged object. It is charging by conduction because the bodies are in contact with each other. Okay.